This week, our conversation with Nicola Jarvis is sponsored by Avlia Folk Embroidery and Cyberpointers. Designer Krista West of Avlia Folk Embroidery provides a steady stream of some of the most beautiful designs we see in the cross-stitch world. A new offering is a series of home decor textiles. These are gorgeous, finished, you don't have to stitch them, machine-embroidered table linens from Greece that are available in several sizes. For example, the stunning blue urn table linen is available as a 35 by 35 inch square, 18 by 36 rectangular runner, and as a tapered runner in 15 by 60, 15 by 44, and 15 by 36 sizes. These linens are machine washable, hang dry, and press with medium iron or dry clean. Krista's initial offering is 6 designs. That doesn't mean Krista has stopped creating designs to stitch either. Check out Clara's Garden, Rhodora, Oak Park Diamonds, and Tuscan Bergamot. Buy 3 download PDF charts and get 1 free with the code DOWNLOADFOLK. That means her 4 latest designs for the price of 3. Go shopping today at avliaembroidery.com. Also sponsoring the show is Cyberpointers, the only online chapter of the American Needlepoint Guild. Cyberpointers recently celebrated its 15th anniversary. Cyberpointers provides many exciting stitching opportunities through meeting programs and workshops. The chapter has an instructor-led program at every meeting. Meetings are held online every other month. Upcoming meeting programs include, in March, Fibonacci Swirls by Olivia Hartshorn, led by chapter member Kathleen Brennan. Registration for that opens February 15. In May, the project will be Stash Sampler by Melita Glavin, and in July, Stars and Stripes by Jenny Walter. Several exciting workshops are planned for the 2024-2025 calendar, including designs from national teachers Kathy Reese, Gail Stafford, Dawn Donnelly, and Tony Gertis. Be sure to check out Cyberpointers' website at cyberpointers.org or contact a Cyberpointers board member for all of their exciting current and future offerings. Cyberpointers would also like to thank FiberTalk for providing listeners the opportunity to learn about new designers and techniques. We look forward to sponsoring future shows in 2024. Thanks to Avlia Folk Embroidery and Cyberpointers for your continued support, and thanks for the kind words. I just joined A&G and Cyberpointers because I have to do that Fibonacci Swirls design. Now, our conversation with Nicola Jarvis about her beautiful new book, Life in Seasons. Welcome back. I'm Gary Parr.
And I'm Beth Ellicott.
And you're listening to Fiber Talk, the twice-weekly podcast for needlework artists. Our artist this week from the Nicola Jarvis studio, the Nicola Jarvis. Nicola, welcome.
Thank you. Hello. Hi, Gary. Hi, Beth.
August 2020 was the last time we talked. Holy smokes.
I know. I can't believe it. It's just flown, hasn't it? And
It has.
So much has happened in between.
No kidding.
Yes.
Oh, my.
Yeah. Well, we got to do this more often, so mark that down on your calendar. Yep.
Will do. With pleasure.
All right. So that was August 16th. So people who want to know Nicola's background, where she came from, what she did, how she got here is all in that podcast. Even though it's 3.5 years old, it's all there. So, Nicola has joined us today. She has 2 new books coming out. One, their Life in Seasons, The Embroidered World of Nicola Jarvis. And so just give us the basics here. So 2 books, The Winter Spring is the first one?
Yes, that's right. That's volume 1. And Summer Autumn is volume 2. And Winter Spring is out at the end of January, the 25th. It's released. And it's about my walks in the countryside near where I live with my dog Quince, and all the natural history and wildlife and the countryside that we enjoy on a daily basis. And that has inspired a series of embroidered projects which I feature in the book, which are all wild animals. There are 8 of them, and they're all decorated and inspired by the seasons in which I saw them.
So, okay, so that's comes out in January, and then the summer,
Yes.
autumn, summer, fall, when does that come out?
That comes out in October 25, so in about 18 months' time.
Okay.
Just over, yeah.
So just enough time to get all the projects in winter, spring done, and then new ones come out.
Yeah, winter, spring are done. That's right, winter, spring are done. And I have the advanced copy right in front of me. So I'm currently working on summer, autumn right now as we speak. So I'm currently stitching away. And all those projects have to be submitted to Inspirations, their studios, in February of next year. So just over a year to,
no pressure.
No pressure to ship 8, really compelling projects.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
And these books Nicola's done with Inspirations, so they have all the photography and production, high-end quality elements that you get out of any Inspirations products. All the instructions that we're familiar with, a list of materials and illustrations, all that is in the book. So you get exactly what you would see in the magazine or other Inspirations books in terms of doing the projects. So it's that's really nice. I mean, the quality is beautiful. Beth and I have PDF advanced copies that we've looked at, and I know we're both buying the book as soon as it comes out. But
Wow.
got to own that sucker. But it also, being in conjunction with Inspirations, there's a familiarity, but then there's just that ultra high quality that goes with it that really makes it nice, just from the perspective of doing the projects.
It really is. I mean, I knew, obviously, I've known them for nearly 10 years and worked with them for 10 years, the Inspirations team, both the previous and now the present team under Andrea and Christian Fleming, and their work, their styling, their photography, the quality of their writing, that it's just sublime. It really is. And so that's really one of the things that swung my decision to work with them. I already knew them, how well we worked together, because I've taught at Beating Around the Bush on 4 occasions, and I've also had projects featured in their magazines, and they never let you down. They they take your projects to a whole to new heights in terms of the way that they present it, and the book is absolutely beautiful. It really is. And I was staggered when I actually received the physical copy. I didn't expect anything less, but I think when you get the physical thing in your hands, it's just another level altogether.
Yeah.
So did they approach you about doing a book, or did you have an idea and ask them if they wanted to publish it?
So we have to go back 10 years, Beth. And in 2014, I was approached by their then editor, Anna Scott, to write a book with them based on William Morris inspired creatures. And that book project with them was shelved because the company changed hands and was taken over by Christian and Andrea Fleming in 2015-16. And then when I was at Beating Around the Bush in 2018, Christian and I had a discussion about me collaborating on another book idea, not the Morris creatures, but historically inspired projects. And I submitted a synopsis, and they were just having a look at it and discussing it when my husband had to have open heart surgery. And I wrote to Christian and said, the book, I can't do that book at the moment. I've got to look after, I've got to concentrate on my husband. I'm sorry. And they were great. They said, absolutely, no question. Then the pandemic hit. And then in
that pandemic, I'll tell you, it's just a chunk out of everyone's lives.
My God, didn't it just? And then, so in 2020, so when that hit, we were all left with a lot of free time on our hands. And I started to do a lot of designing based on my garden, nature, the creatures, the plants in the garden and beyond, in the fields and lanes that are at the back of our house. And in July 21, Christian emailed me and said, "Hey, Nicola, what about doing a book? Come on, what about this book idea? What about us getting this book idea off the ground now?" And I said, "Oh my goodness, Christian, that's really weird and fortuitous because I am working on a whole body of work and I have a load of drawings right now. I was thinking of self-publishing, but in actual fact, how wonderful that we could actually finally collaborate." And so in August 21, he drew up the contract. I signed the contract and started the work. And here we are after book one has been completed.
Wow. The idea for the book, the designs, when I first saw it, my gut reaction was, okay, these are some beautifully embroidered animals. And then when you actually look at it and read the background, and we're not going to go through the whole book, people got to buy it and look at it, and people will want to buy this, trust me. But I'm looking at your designs, and it's animals, but then the bodies of the animals are the flora and fauna. They're not just fur. And it was like a second take, like, holy smokes, she took the environment that these animals are in at that time of year and made that the body. And I just sat here and just applauded you for the combination and bringing the environment into the animals you saw. It just really creative. Really enjoyed that part.
Oh, wow. Well, I think it was a natural progression or a development from the collaging that I was doing with the William Morris patterns on the birds and the creatures, of a few years ago. And then I think it was very much sort of being really inspired by the countryside that is around us here in the Midlands. It's very rolling, it's very green, it's very pretty. There's lots of beautiful plants, gorgeous trees. It's endlessly inspirational. And progressively on these dog walks, we spot creatures, and it all started to sort of meld. The landscape started to meld on top of the creatures, and everything was sort of feeding into each other, if that makes sense. And so, I think that collaging patterns onto animals was something I was already doing. And then I just sort of took the inspirational shapes and patterns of the landscape and collaged those onto this most recent set of creatures. So I'm glad you like them, Gary and Beth. It's really lovely that you like them.
Oh, yeah.
I enjoyed doing them, I must say. And I think the pandemic gave me the time and freedom to really just have joyful sort of freedom and playtime and not be burdened by deadlines. Sometimes us designers get really weighed down by that. And I'm not saying it stops our creativity, but I think sometimes it can pressure you but the pandemic did me a favor, let's say it and the dog walks, and I was able to sort of just breathe and enjoy and just let it all flow.
Well, you're not the first designer we've talked to who's expressed that experience. We just got to find a way to do it without some nasty virus.
Yes, isn't that the truth? Isn't that? But we wear so many hats, don't we, as sort of sole trader designers? That's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and the book, the other part of the designs and walking with your dog and seeing these things is it's we think to see amazing things that we have to get on a plane and fly for 4 hours and get in a hotel and plan a trip and the whole thing, and you're doing this all in your backyard basically, and just opening your eyes and being willing to draw in what's in your environment and look what you found.
And I think that's another, keep mentioning the P word, but I think that was another thing that everybody realized, or at least many saw the beauty of just what was near them when they were going on those walks. We were all just walking, weren't we? Lots of us hadn't walked much, had we?
Yep.
And I think when you walk and you're not driving or not on public transport, you are actually keying in much closer, aren't you, to what is around you, to the details and what it, your environment. And in my case, it was, the country lanes and the fields beyond the house and the allotment. We have an allotment garden, a very extensive allotment garden beyond the house as well. And just walking around that with Quince and watching that changing through the seasons was one of the favourite things of my day. It really has become, something really, really special and extremely important now, feeder into my work.
Well, and I think you're saying something that's important. I think it's that, we live in a very busy world, and just to slow down, because when I walk, I generally try to walk, I'm going fast, I'm trying to get my aerobics in or whatever, but to slow down and to look at the texture of the trees, to see the mushrooms growing. When I slow down, you see more, don't you? I mean, you see those things that God has created around us that we can slow down and look at. And then you did that during the pandemic and then created some beautiful art. I mean, it's just gorgeous. I just love it. I'm looking at the image of the basket with the goldwork butterflies, and I'm like, the colors in there. I'm like, oh no, this is just beautiful. But I think you need to slow down to see things. I think that's what we just live these busy lives, and we don't.
And I think what you're saying, Beth, is we need to consciously take time, don't we? To, as you say, to just enjoy that very simple pleasures, really, which they're so important, aren't they? They cost nothing, and yet they are so important for our well-being, aren't they? And as artists, can be for our work, in terms of inspiration and creating, new designs.
Right.
And Beth describes that you go through a walk through the woods to get your aerobics in, but when you go just for a walk, you're in a forest, a meadow, whatever it might be, and you see the bigger picture. But then, like Beth said, if you slow down, your mind does a shift and it starts to see the little things. You start to get immersed in it. And that was what came out of this book for me. Was you'd probably done a couple of walks or so with Quince, and then you start to find these things start to pop out that you were overlooking before. And
totally.
Yeah. And then I'm sure that the ideas start to flow after that.
So they come thick and fast. I mean, so many that you just don't have a chance to realize all of them. And that's, I think, one of the beautiful frustrations of being an artist. I mean, we can get a bit sort of bogged down by it all, but actually, that I think, and as well, you've got to learn to be selective and just drive a few of those ideas. But as you say, Gary, you're absolutely right. It is just a feast, isn't it? A just rich feast of ideas and inspirations, as you say, both on the larger scale and that really macro, going right into, as Beth says, textures and little details and little insects and a cobweb or, a leaf that's just sort of dried out and all of it's crumbled away and it's just left just the vein-like structure that looks like lace, all those things which, wish we could live forever.
So take us through that process now. All right, so you start to see these things. I mean, the badger. Beth and I both commented about the badger, basically black and white badger. Wow, I just love that one. Take us through that process. You start to see these things, and then is it just photos in the field, or do you have a sketchbook with you, or how do you start to process these ideas?
So with to always take the camera, the phone, and I always have taken the camera when I've gone walking, and even before Quince. So I used to go walking with David. We used to do the walks, the famous walks in the UK. I mean, I've only done two with David, but we used to break them up into legs, of a 6 or 7 miles that we'd do a day. And we'd go with friends, and I'd take the camera and I photograph all sorts of aspects of the natural world. It could be, a leaf, a butterfly, a mushroom, a flower, a tree, a landscape, whatever. And then that's a record. So that's a record of something that really interests me. And then I'll take that back to the studio. But whilst I'm walking, I've captured the record of something I want to pursue or develop. But whilst I'm walking, I'm thinking about how I can work with that thing. And invariably with me, something always comes into my mind of how I'm going to work something. I see these images of the badger that was, the badger had all of the leaves and plants on him. The fox was draped in the flowers of the hedgerows. The hare was festooned with the spring blossoms. These images come to me once I've sort of captured something or seen an animal. Suddenly something then will just spark from that and appear in my mind as a design, a drawing. And I will come back to the studio, and with the aid of the photographs, with the aid of my knowledge of the decorative arts, specifically textiles and embroidery, but also ceramics, I'll then work up a quick sketch of what was in my mind, how I wanted to present this animal. And then from that quick sketch, I will develop a detailed colour drawing. So it takes, it can take a few days, possibly a week or a few weeks to sort of get that design drawing realised. And then that detailed design drawing forms the basis then of the embroidery design.
So when you get back to the house, then is it, I've got these two hot ideas, I need to sit down right away and at least scratch something on paper
Yes.
It can cook from there.
Correct. It has to sort of be nailed, as you say. Does it, really swift, get it out of the head, through the hand and onto the paper. And it's never a beautiful looking thing, or at least I don't think so. Other people might have different ideas. I don't think so. But they are, as you say, a really quick reference, a really quick throwdown of how I want this thing to look when I've worked into it with greater detail.
Okay, then it cooks, and then you start to refine it over a few days. Then,
yes, that's right. Yeah, and that can take anything from 3 or 4 days up to a couple of weeks, and it does depend on which medium I choose as well. But mostly it's color pencil, but sometimes it's collage or paint. With sparrows, I painted those on a big board. The basket that Beth likes was a collage. So that was all collaged with drawings that I cut out and then layered little drawings and layered those up. So the design process can be different in terms of what materials I use.
So effectively,
nice.
you're creating two works of art then.
Well, yes, I think this is what's happening actually, and Inspirations were very keen on having the drawings and the paintings as well as the embroideries. They wanted to feature those as well as the stitching. I mean, the stitching was absolutely key, but they also saw value in the drawings. And they do have a different sort of feel to them both. The embroidery is so sort of textured and rich in terms of its layering with the fibers and the beads and the sequins. Whereas the drawings are much flatter, but again, they have a different kind of depth in terms of the tones and textures. So it's interesting actually to view the two together, I think.
Yes, and now that you said that you did collage on that one on the basket, I think maybe that's why I was so drawn to it, is because I see the layers there on the piece, and layers always intrigue me. Always.
Oh, interesting. I've always enjoyed collage, Beth. Always enjoyed, cutting things out and layering things up, and yeah, and that piece is very much from that kind of process. So it's really nice that you like that for that reason.
Yeah, I think that's because you can see the various bits kind of jumping off the surface, the butterflies and that it gives it that dimension, which I just love, which I also love about embroidery, because it is a tactile art form. There's feeling when you move the threads through the textile, but there's also feeling on top of the surface, which I like the tactileness of it. So
and me too, Beth. Me too. Me too. Absolutely. For 30 odd years, that's completely loved being immersed in that. And a lot of my embroiderers, many of them, in fact, if not all of them, are not behind glass, for the reason that I like them to be felt. Embroidery for me is something that was, about furnishing, about softening, about keeping warm. And I love to keep that feeling in my objects, that I make. I don't like to put many behind glass. I like to have that, the immediacy of the texture of embroidery. And I like to actually see embroidery decay as well, to degrade. I'm not frightened of it, having a life that, it starts as one thing and then becomes, this slightly less of itself and disappears, if it sort of fades in the sun or it breaks down because of the insects eating it. I love that.
I have a friend that she actually, we share, like if I go estate sailing and there's a piece of fabric that has a hole in it, like a linen or something, she wants that piece specifically because she loves that hole, and then she'll do artwork all around a piece of fabric that has a hole in it.
Fantastic. I see. She's celebrating the decay and the distress, isn't she? It's wonderful.
Yes, she is. Yeah, right.
Yeah, fabulous.
As you're creating the painting, the drawing, the collage, whatever it is, as you're going through that process, is the other side of your mind then creating the needlework that is going to be the ultimate piece?
Yes.
And
yeah.
Are we making notes as we go, or is it just collecting in your head?
There's a few notes, Gary, but they are sparse. It's in my head, but also I think because I've been involved with embroidery for, over 3 decades, sort of lived it and breathed it for that many years, I think I know that my drawing and painting is very much informed by the stitch marks, the stitch mechanics. I really feel that. And so it's when I did the Morris show, the William Morris show, and was designing for that, the drawings I made before the stitching was executed by a lot of the stitchers and myself, they all had the techniques were all there in the drawings, so you could tell what was long and short, you could tell what was satin stitch, you could tell what was couched, you could tell the French knots, and I think that's how I draw. You can see all that is held in the drawing marks, so it's quite easy then for me or for other stitchers to translate those drawings into embroiderers. So all the thinking and the planning is actually in the drawing itself. So there's no need really for that many notes. I mean, I make a few, but not many, because all the information is there.
So that the art then that that drawing or whatever, that really is your notes then.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very, very much so. And I've done a lot of organizing and experimenting and decision making in the drawing. So the embroidery, for the most part, is pretty straightforward in terms, because all the decisions have been made. And I'm more often than not, most of what I've planned in the drawing works out in the embroidery. Not everything, the odd thread might not look as good as I thought it might, or I wanted to add something or take something away. But that's just, I would say, not a huge amount of that happens. For the most part, the embroidery tends to work very well from the drawing, if that makes, it makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, because
in terms,
yeah, because many designers, the stitching part is where a lot of the creativity happens, the fluidity of the design, but you've already worked that out.
Yes,
the most part.
I have.
Yeah, okay.
For the most part, but it is still, I wouldn't say it's not, it's still organic. It's, and something else happens in the embroidery that didn't happen in the drawing, which is really exciting. As you say, that flow, it's really exciting to see the drawn marks translating into the embroidered marks. I love that transitioning. It's fabulous.
Some that didn't work out?
Oh God, loads.
Okay. You're still normal
loads. Then. Oh God, so normal. So normal. Absolutely, and I love that. And I hope and I love the mistakes, and I have got the sparrows, for example. That the sparrows that's in the book is the third incarnation of the sparrows.
Oh.
Yep. I've got 2 other samples that were nearly finished. They were nearly finished, and I decided, no, don't like them. And I actually found them the other day and looked at them and thought, you're a fussy little madam, you are. fussy little madam. Really, pinickety. Yep. And they're fine. But hey, who knows? Whatever. It's the day. Something about them didn't work for me on the day, and that's fine, because they're interesting. It'd be really good when I teach now to show, all the different options that have come out of one drawing, the different interpretations. That's the exciting thing, isn't it?
Well, it's important to know that, because I think people in general view artists such as you as, you started with this idea and it here it is. It worked out perfect, and it works out perfect every time. And they never see all the stuff that's shoved in a box that just didn't work, or like you said, that particular day, it's like, nope, gonna start over and do it another way. It's important to know that there's much more of a process than some magic that you guys create.
I think the magic is I've read this a lot, and I think now I live this, and the magic is it's just hard graft, and it's experience and knowing what works and what doesn't work. And I do sample before I start something. If I'm a little doubtful or I'm not quite sure if it's going to work, I will sample and see. And on the whole, it does, but I need to sample it to make sure, because we are working to deadlines at the end of the day. For the most part, your experience and your hard work sort of really, you've got those in your armory, haven't you, that carry you through. But you do make mistakes here and there, and things don't work out. And that's, as you say, Gary, we're all human, and we're all learning, aren't we? We're all on a journey. The word is overused, but we're all, aren't we, in our own train of development. And, we all make messes just like the best of them. And there's nothing, it's all good, isn't it, in the end? It's not life and death, is it?
No.
And I think the thing is, it's not being afraid to make the mistakes. I think I was talking to someone recently, and they were like, well, I can't do that because I might ruin that piece of fabric, or I might ruin that. And I was like, but if you don't ever try, how will you know? And it's hard to get over that. It's hard to get over that fear of failure, of quote unquote wasting materials. We all are gonna, if you don't fail, you won't know what mistakes, you don't know how to move forward.
No. And I hear people say that, your failures are the most important part of your life because they're the things you grow from, aren't they? Mm-hmm. If everything goes well, you don't sort of dig deep in yourself, do you? I think I find now, 58 years of age, I find failure and mistakes really exciting. In fact, I find them more exciting now than what went smoothly and what worked.
Yeah. Do you keep all your cast-offs?
Yep. Every single one.
Okay.
I think they're really, really important. And I mean, when I teach, I say to people, try not to unpick, it's this whole story. And actually what you might think is awful, if you just put it away for 2 days or let other people look at it, you in 2 days' time, you won't see it as being as awful as you did on the day. And when people look at it, they won't see what you think's really awful. They'll look at everything that's great about it, I mean, I get that people want to unpick things and want things to look really wonderful, but I try not to unpick too much. I try not to rub out in my drawings too much. When I was training as an artist years ago, going to life drawing, I had a tutor that said, don't use the eraser. Just be really sure about the marks you're making. And if you don't like a mark you're putting down, use it. Don't cover it up. Use it. A bit like Beth was saying with the holes in, a friend with the fabric. I think it's interesting, isn't it? This whole perfection and mistake thing. The whole conversation on this, I reckon, isn't there?
Oh, there is. And I suffer from perfectionism, and I drive myself nuts sometimes to the point where I ruin the fun of the needlework trying to make it perfect. And it's very hard for me to just let something go. And like I just finished a reproduction sampler here recently, and toward the end, I was off by a stitch. And it was like, I need to haul this all out, because the perfectionist in me said, you need to move this over 1 stitch. And then that little voice said, you idiot, leave it. It's 40 count fabric. Nobody's going to be able to see that you were 1 thread off. Leave it. And
exactly.
But it was hard. There was that moment where it was really hard for me to just finish the motif and move on. And you're right. And then no one will ever know, other than the fact that I just admitted it. But I've got other ones. I think we all do, where there's an error, and then 5 years later, you couldn't find that error to save your hide because you just forget.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm glad you didn't take all that work out, Gary.
No. It was hard.
I know.
It was hard, though.
I bet it was hard. And I'm, I think a lot of us embroiderers have got that kind of perfectionist aspect about them. And as you say, someone said to me the other day, it's not about perfectionism, it's about being a high achiever. Try and think of it more like that.
Ooh, I'm writing that down. High achiever. I like that.
Yeah, and it sort of softens that whole the harshness that perfectionism can appear, can't it? Sort of quite hard and brittle. And I think if you're striving to just achieve the best for yourself, it sort of feels a bit more gentle, doesn't it, than the perfectionist.
Yeah.
That can be a little, sometimes it's just not realistic, is it?
Well, that's the other part. Yeah, it isn't realistic, and you can bang your head against the wall all day long, and you're just not going to get there. So enjoy
Relax
it.
and be yourself.
Enjoy it. Yep.
Enjoy the process.
Yeah,
Enjoy
let
the
it
process.
flow. Let it flow.
Yeah.
That's it.
One of the many highlights in your book, and I hope you do it in the second book, is the people, the tangential, ancillary people that came along with this process, the upholsterer and the bookbinder, and you have little stories about them in there. And I read every word of every one of them. It was just fascinating. These people that are part of this project, and it's that old. Nothing happens by yourself. There's always a body of people who make something happen when it comes to these kinds of projects, and so these people that you experienced and brought into the project is absolutely fascinating. The master upholsterer, Gary Warren. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome guy. Wonderful. And I mean, I'd met a lot of these people, years ago, 5, 6, 7 years ago, because they did other work for me and for David. So things for our house or other projects for me for, my embroidery work. And it didn't cross my mind at first when I was doing the book to actually, involve them. And then it just seemed, one day I was going over to, I think it was Guy who did the pole. No, we'd got the pole screen. David bought it for me 10 years ago, the pole screen. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's got little bluebells all carved at the sides of it. And it had got a little bit wobbly, got a little bit brittle. In the heat of the house, the wood had sort of shrunk a little bit and it just needed some TLC. And Gary, the upholsterer, told me about Guy, the cabinet maker. And, Kenilworth and Warwick are not far away at all. Leamington, Kenilworth and Warwick, they're all very historic towns, and they're quite connected in terms of they're really close geographically. And Guy and Gary had been working together for years. Guy would restore the wooden parts of the furniture that Gary would then upholster. So Gary told me about Guy when I needed the pole screen restoring. And I thought to myself, this is just gold dust. I could have little vignettes of these wonderful heritage craftspeople. It just dawned on me. Don't just use them. Feature them, because they're fabulous and their stories are so seldom told. And I think the book is a story, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
It's a lot of stories. It's a story of Quince and I walking. And I thought, well, why can't their stories be part of this as well? And so I mentioned this to Christian and he said, no, that's great. Yeah, we really like that. That's wonderful, because Christian and Andrea and their team are all about, it's not just about the one, it's about as you said, Gary, just now, it's about the whole team behind a piece of work or a project. And they're fascinating people in their own right, aren't they? All of the contributors.
Oh, yeah. And it also brings in these other craft artist experts that are tangential to needlework in one way or another, whether it's upholstery or framing or whatever. And then you've got your horticulturist, Christine Vick, and the people that played a role in the original source for the ideas. It just all kind of weaves together and makes a real nice fabric for the project. Yeah,
it's just a little extra. It's added interest, isn't it? But it's all really, it's not just arbitrary. It is all a very sort of important part of the story. And as you say, they all play a part in these objects coming to life. And it just gives it some depth, and it gives it sort of an added rich layer, I think, which I felt was important.
Yeah.
And another layer was the poetry. Now, did the poetry come while you were doing your walking, or?
Yes, it did. It did, Beth. I mean, Gary asked me earlier, when he was giving me sort of a list of possible questions that we'd cover. And he, did you just write the poetry for the book, or had you been writing poetry earlier in your life? And I've loved writing and poetry since I was, a young early teen. And it was a big part of my education when I was a little girl. We were made to read a lot of poetry. and to recite it by heart. I mean, I don't think it happens in schools anymore. But as, an artistic person, I have an artistic nature. Words that paint pictures have always fascinated me. And when you look at some of the inspirations, their books, some of the opening chapters of the projects feature poems. They select poems that might suit a project. And I thought to myself, I bet you they'll choose poems to go alongside my projects for the book. And I thought, you know what? I actually don't want other people's poems because they won't have come from the same place as the material that I've used to make the projects, the embroideries, the drawings. So I think I'd like to write my own. So I said to Christian, I wrote to him and said, would you mind if I wrote some poetry? And I think he might have just humoured me at first and thought, if we don't like it, we won't use it. But he actually really liked it, which I was so pleased. I really was, because as you suggested, Beth, I do actually formulate it as I walk around with the dog in the countryside. It's, I'm looking at things, observing things, and descriptions are going through my head as well in words. So I'm sort of painting with words as well. It's really enjoyable. I really enjoy writing. I really do. It gives me great pleasure.
It just adds to the story of the book. And that's what I found so intriguing. Because I saw the poetry and I thought, okay, someone wrote a little poem to go with it. And then I thought, no, it was Nicola. She wrote it. Perfect.
Yes, I did think, Beth, it was important. I thought it was quite important. If I could, then why not? That's what I thought.
This is out of left field, but when you and Quince are walking, do you kind of feel like you immerse yourselves in separate parallel little universes there out in the woods, if you will?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
He's busy. Quince's world is all about the scents and the smells. It's apparently they've got 100,000 scent receptors in their noses. I didn't know this till I got a dog. So his world is all about really, really intense smells. So he's busy seeing, what creatures have been around from the night before. And I'm busy, looking at, whoa, that would make a really great embroidery, So we are together, but in very different headspaces,
Yeah.
but very happy companions.
Yep.
Very happy. And the same when my husband walks with him, because we both walk him daily. And we just love it. We absolutely love it. It's, I think
so
most
great.
people do. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's look at the commercial aspect of all this. The patterns, the kits, the instructions. Where are people going to get these? How are people going to connect with the projects?
Okay, so people have got two options. They can either purchase the embroidery projects from Inspirations, or they can purchase the embroidery projects from me, from my website. I have an online shop. So both Inspirations and myself are selling the projects, and they'll be similar price, and people can purchase them from either of us, And I think what might dictate people's choices or decisions is, where they are in the world, if that makes sense,
Right.
in terms of shipping and taxes. So there's those, all the Australian and that side of the world. It might, it's probably going to be more economical to purchase from Inspirations, and then people sort of over in Europe and the UK will probably choose to purchase from me, but they're going to be available from both of us. Inspirations on their website and from me on my website.
Okay, and then are kits, the basic instructions are in the book, so buy the book, then you have that. But
you do, but equally we both include instruction booklets in the kits as well. I think Inspirations also do a PDF as well. I think you can download a PDF as well, for a price, obviously. Myself, with my kits, they include a very, very detailed instruction booklet, all the fabric, and all the fibers, yarns and threads and notions and needles, to be able to complete the project.
Now, will people who have large stashes be able to buy instructions and the printed design and as a separate thing, or is it?
So that's a really, really good question, and I will actually just talk to Christian about that and just ask him, whether or not that will be on offer. I'm sure at some point, Gary, it will be, because it's something I like to do anyway. And I do sell my instruction booklets from previous projects just with the fabric, so that people can indeed use up their threads,
right,
and also create something that's a bit more personal and individual as well, which I think is really exciting. But that particular detail, Gary, I think I'd need to go back to Christian and just verify that one. But
yeah,
if people do want just fabric and booklet only, I think they'll need to either approach Inspirations or myself, and at some point after the end of January, we'll be able to give them an answer on that. There's also in the book pull-out patterns as well, so that people can transfer the line design onto fabric and do their own rendition, their own creation from the line design of all the creatures, so they don't have to work with my colors or fabrics. They can create their very own interpretation.
So basically, all the options we would have with any other Inspirations project product are there. So okay,
I think this will be no different eventually. Yeah, with the just talking about the fabric and booklet just on their own.
And Beth mentioned, and it didn't even hit me until she mentioned it, that the designs are printed in color on the cloth. That's
on all of them. They are all printed in color, full color, on the cloth. So 3 of them are on a twill weave, and the other 5 are on a selection of different cotton surfaces. So yes, they are. They're full color, and you embroider over the print, and some of the printed area and the motif is left visible between the stitches, and some of the printed areas are completely covered in stitch. So you get that that sort of effect of a bit of the color print showing through alongside the stitching. So you've got that sort of different levels going on within the embroidery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This isn't going to come out right, but I'm just going to go for it. I was surprised or intrigued that you used twill as opposed to a more conventional embroidery fabric on those projects. Was that a
well? Three of the projects are on linen twill, because they're predominantly crewel work projects.
Ah, okay.
And the linen supports crewel wool embroidery, very effectively. And the other 5 projects are surface embroidery, with a bit of crewel work, a bit of gold work, a bit of raised work. And again, they're a little bit lighter in weight.
Yeah.
So no, it was a conscious and decision to put them onto the linen twill. However, I do need to communicate this at this time, and I hope you don't mind me just sort of using your platform in order to do this. So I think it's really important. When I started designing the creatures in 21 and decided to put the badger, the fox, and the mallard duck onto linen, I was accessing my linen from a weaver in Scotland called Angus Weavers, and they'd been weaving linen twill. They're a heritage company that had been weaving linen twill for decades. And I had used their linen twill for decades, and I had encountered it initially when I did my apprenticeship at the Royal School of Needlework. And Angus Weavers in 22, they went out of business, not through any financial problems, but Ian, who was running it at that time, decided to retire, and he worked in Angus Weavers until quite late in his life. And when I spoke to him a while back and, said, it's been wonderful and thank you so much, he said, well, Nicola, you know what, at my age, it was time. It was, and, he was not a spring chicken. So I was really impressed that he worked as long as he did and kept the woven fabric going. So what happened was the company closed and another company are manufacturing the linen twill. But what has happened is I've had to source another fabric, which is very, very similar, but not linen. It's a very, very heavy drill cotton. It's like the linen twill, but it's actually cotton. So it's heavy and it's got the diagonal twill weave running through it, just like the linen twill, but it's not linen. And the reason is we couldn't actually get the colour printing to work as well on this new twill as I could with the old twill that's no longer being produced. So the prints look amazing on this new fabric, and the new fabric is really heavy and perfect for crewel work. But I can no longer produce it at the moment on the original linen due to just a different manufacturing process, which is not compatible with the print process at the moment. But we're all working on it. And eventually, I'm sure that we'll get to the point where we'll be able to print effectively on the new linen like we did the old. Yeah. But I needed to be able to say that, and I hope you don't mind me using this opportunity just to communicate that to everybody.
Not at all. No, I mean that stuff happens. I mean, people are entitled to retire, for crying out loud.
Oh, absolutely. Of course they are, and it was a wonderful product, fabulous, and we all those of us that have used it all know it and love it. So that everyone who's used it will know what I'm talking about.
So how many meters of the original twill have you hoarded?
Not that many, sadly.
Oh, no.
Yeah, no, because I wasn't aware of, how I wasn't aware that Ian was thinking of retiring. I have bits and pieces, Gary, enough for a few projects, personal projects, but not enough to do a whole print run of my, kit designs. So, that's it. But I found a really great surface which works very, very well, and and on we go. Yep. So there we are.
That's what you have to do. All right,
so absolutely.
Now this year is a lot going on outside of the book for you. So we've got a new website for you coming up.
Yes,
and then,
a lovely new website. I've got a great graphic designer, a lovely girl called Emma, and she's She's a young, very bright, fantastic graphic designer, and she's currently she's designed a beautiful website for me, because she said my old one just didn't present me in the way that she felt I needed to be presented. She said, you tell stories through your embroidery, and none of that is communicated on your existing website, Nicola. So anyway, she's really brought it up to scratch. And so that's launched at the same time as the book is released at the end of January.
Okay. All right. And then teaching at the Royal School, and then I'm gonna get this name wrong. You're gonna do some travel.
Weems. Yeah, I am. I'm teaching online for the Royal School of Needlework in July, or is it August? I can't quite remember. It's on their website. It's in the summer this year, and the Royal School of Needlework hold an annual international summer school over in Lexington in the US.
Yes.
And I will be teaching an online course alongside well, it's all part of the summer school, but I'll be teaching from my studio, and I'll be teaching students and attendees who are in the States from my studio in Leamington Spa. So that, and we'll be working on a project called Myrtle Blossom, which I designed for the school's 150th birthday, which was in 2022. So
yeah. Yeah, we'll be talking with Susan here in an upcoming show about all the things that are coming up from the Royal School, and summer school is part of that.
Great.
That thing.
Great
Yeah,
stuff.
and one of the benefits of the pandemic is we've gotten very good at doing online classes, so people will be able to.
We do.
Yeah.
We have. And Gary, my last thing I said to you in our last podcast, which was in 2020, I said to you, Gary, I'm going to get that Zoom under my belt. And I have. I've done it. And it's great. Yeah, it's fantastic. It doesn't replace face-to-face classroom teaching and real group work, but it's a great substitute for reaching a lot of people who couldn't normally, you couldn't normally go and teach, and they couldn't normally come to you. So it's fantastic.
Right. Now talk about this needlework travel that you're doing.
So Jeremy Hamilton and Elizabeth Bosiewicz, who was the editor of Needlepoint Now for 17 years. And she tells me, Gary, you interviewed her many years ago on the
Yes.
Fiber Talk, and she had great fun with you, she said. Elizabeth is now, she's no longer editor. She was there for 17 years and she sold the magazine. And she's now working with an English gentleman called Jeremy Hamilton, who has dealt in needlepoint canvases nearly all of his working life. And they've joined forces and created Needlework Travel, which is a tour company for needlepointers, but not predominantly for needlepointers. It's the needlepoint is the thrust of it. But they welcome surface stitchers if they want to come along, because the classes that are taught are a mix of needlepoint and surface embroidery. And they travel to, we're going to Paris in the spring, and in the autumn of this year, we're going to the Lake District and to Scotland, to the Weems School of Needlework. And basically they put on really wonderful tours. They're really high quality. The stitchers will stay in beautiful places. They will visit wonderful venues with great collections. And they will do some really interesting needlework, needlepoint or surface embroidery projects whilst they're traveling. And I'm part of that, aspect of it as a teacher that Jeremy and Elizabeth employ. So we're going to Scotland to the Weems School of Needlework, which is a really interesting school. It was founded in 1877 and founded just after the Royal School of Needlework was started in 1872. The Weems School started as a sort of copy of the Royal School, and also wanted to provide income for girls and young women who didn't have occupation. So they taught them embroidery to give them a means of earning money. And the school has thrived since that time. And they now offer classes. They have a beautiful collection, a historic collection of needlework, which is on offer for people to study. And they are like the Royal School of Needlework. They are expanding their horizons and building their repertoire. And they're well worth looking up on the internet, looking at their website. And they do have this wonderful collection of needlework that they like to use as a point of education for their projects and classes.
Have you taught at the Weems School before?
No, it's going to be my first time in the autumn, and they've apparently, according to Jeremy, they've wanted to, collaborate with me for a number of years. And sometimes, life just doesn't seem to bring you together, does it? But
Right.
but next October is when, I will work with them, and I'm really looking forward to it. It'd be wonderful to go to Scotland, and great to be part of their school for a few days.
Right. Yeah. And for people looking it up, it's WEMYSS. Yeah. When you say Weems, it doesn't translate to.
No, that's right. Wemyss.
Yeah, Wemyss. Yeah.
Wemyss.
So you're going to be on the road then. That's going to be great.
Yes, it is. It's going to be lovely. I mean, I've got to be really careful about time and energy levels because it's a busy year, but it's going to be great fun and very, very exhilarating. It's lovely to be with students and I really enjoy teaching. It gives so much back. It gives you so much back. You give a lot, but you get a lot back. It's a wonderful two-way street.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that dynamic again, and to going further afield for a change. Yeah, absolutely.
Nothing wrong with that. Yep.
No, that's right.
So the new book, end of the month, end of January, and then the summer, autumn. Is it autumn or fall? We're going with autumn.
It's summer, autumn.
Okay.
It's the volume 2 is summer, autumn. That's right.
So that'll be next year, and we'll be able to get those through your website, through Inspirations.
That's right. And I'm sure, there'll be a lot of publicity around the release of the second one as well. So I'm sure that if everybody, keeps a watch on Inspirations website or signs up to their newsletter, which comes out every Friday, and it's a fantastic thing. Gary and Beth, do you get the Inspirations newsletter on a Friday?
Really? You have to ask that?
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Hands up. Sorry, but perhaps some of your listeners, your audience, our audience today may not be subscribing to it, but it's worth it, isn't it? It's a lovely thing to have land in your inbox on a Friday morning.
Yep.
So information about the book will be in the newsletter, will be on the Inspirations website, it'll be on my website and my newsletter. So there'll be places to find out more, when these things happen.
Yep. Yeah. If you never buy an Inspirations anything, at least sign up for the newsletter because it is fantastic. Yeah, they do a good job, but basically you do that and you'll start purchasing books and magazines and other things. I guarantee you.
Yep. Everything's really special on there, isn't it?
It sure is.
Very desirable.
Yep. Well, Nicola, thanks so much. Wow. What a ride. Good for you. Congratulations on the new book. It's it's terrific. Yep.
Thank you so much, Gary, and thank you, Beth, and thank you for having me and letting me talk about it. I really appreciate it. It's a really lovely platform.
Yeah, we appreciate the time, and thanks to everyone for listening.